Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. I'm not a cardiologist. Today we'll be discussing on one of the another acyanotic congenital heart disease, that is patent ductus arteriosus. Short form we call PDA. This duct usually becomes atrophic or we call rudimentary after birth, but if it persists, then we call that as a patent ductus arteriosus. As routine, we'll be discussing under definition, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complications. So by definition, the duct remains patent after 3 months of full term normal delivery or after 1 year of premature delivery. Then it is called as persistent patent ductus arteriosus. Now this duct usually after birth it becomes atrophic. We call ligamentum arteriosum. But if it persists and if there is a blood flow through aorta into pulmonary circulation, then we call that as patent ductus arteriosus. There are two common terms which are being utilized. One, pre-subclavian and post-subclavian, PDA. Pre-subclavian means if duct is communicating from aorta to pulmonary artery, by and large left pulmonary artery, before a left subclavian, then it is called pre-subclavian. And if it is communicating after the origin of a subclavian, left subclavian, then it is called as a post-subclavian. Depending upon the size of ductus arteriosus, it is called mild, moderate and severe. Less than 5 square centimeter mild, between 5.5 to 1 it is called as moderate, and more than 1 square centimeter it is called as severe variety. Now depending upon the communication, there are different communication between aorta and pulmonary artery. The most common is between left pulmonary artery to aorta. You can have a right pulmonary artery to right subclavian. You can have a two duct communicating left and right together. You can have a left subclavian to a branch of a left pulmonary. You can have an aorta communicating with the right pulmonary artery, or you can have a permutation combination. These are all the different. The most common is this variety. We call as a pulmonary artery or a left pulmonary artery communicating after subclavian. We call as a post subclavian. The commonest etiology is trisomy 18, or maybe because of severe hypoxia in mother or hypoxia during birth. We call asphyxia neonatal. Another common rubella syndrome means if the mother suffers from rubella during pregnancy. Odd condition like Holt-Oram syndrome may be also associated with PDA. Basically, it is a multifactorial, maybe genetic origin, maybe environmental factor, maybe asphyxia in mother, rubella, or because of drugs, chemicals, etc. Among genetic, trisomy 18 and trisomy 21, maybe Holt-Oram syndrome, Chair syndromes, or sex-linked mutations, etc. That is trisomy 18, trisomy 21. This is rubella syndrome, which is PDA with cataract with microencephaly. Patent ductus arteriosus usually allow the blood to be flowing from mainly post subclavian, that is from aorta into pulmonary artery, because aortic pressure is more than pulmonary artery. And if it persists longer, then we call that as a permanent patent ductus arteriosus. 90% of the time it is an isolated defect. It is accounting for almost 10% of the congenital heart disease. It may be associated with VSD, coarctation of aorta, pulmonary stenosis or aortic stenosis, other congenital malformations. It may be associated with LVH and pulmonary artery dilatation. %80 of the time in a premature, it is patent ductus arteriosus. Now, if we go through a pathophysiology, I'll explain in a very simple way. The pressure in the aorta is more than the pressure in the pulmonary artery. So, during systole, the blood from aorta will flow into pulmonary artery. Even during diastole also, the pressure in the pulmonary artery is less than that in the aorta. Hence, blood will also flow from aorta into pulmonary artery during diastole also. So, there will be marked increase in the blood flow into pulmonary circulation, leading to pulmonary congestion. Secondary to pulmonary congestion, there is a chance of repeated respiratory tract infection. Secondary to repeated respiratory tract infection, pulmonary vascular changes, pulmonary hypertension, more blood will come to LA, so there will be increased size of LA, left atrial enlargement, left atrial hypertrophy, more blood will come to LV, so LV will also undergo hypertrophy. All those blood from LV, this is oxygenated blood which will be going into pulmonary circulation via aorta. So less blood will go to descending aorta. This will be the typical features what will be occurring. The blood which comes to RA from superior vena cava, inferior vena cava to RV will also enter into pulmonary circulation, and this will produce more blood going into pulmonary. So there will be dilatation of pulmonary vessels, pulmonary plethora, pulmonary hypertension. Now secondary to pulmonary hypertension, now there will be increased pressure in RV. Now because of increased pressure in the RV size will start increasing. You will have a RVH, RA pressure will be elevated, and you will have a elevated pressure in superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, leading to symptom signs of congestive cardiac failure. When pulmonary pressure becomes equal to aortic pressure, now shunt will stop. As soon as the shunt stops, the murmur will also stop. It will lead to what we call as Eisenmenger. Now further increase in pulmonary pressure more than aortic pressure. Now shunt will reverse. We call Eisenmenger with reversal of the shunt. Now deoxygenated blood will enter into aorta, and that will circulate in the descending aorta, not in the ascending part and into the subclavians. Hence, person will not have cyanosis in upper limb face, but will have a cyanosis in lower limb and what we call as lower part. So that is called as a differential cyanosis. Secondary to differential cyanosis, person will have a cyanosis in lower limb. There will be no cyanosis in upper limb and face. This is classical features of differential cyanosis in Eisenmenger with reversal of the shunt. If duct is pre-subclavian, then you will have cyanosis only in right upper limb, and there will be no cyanosis in right upper limb. There will be cyanosis in left upper limb and two lower limb. This is also another variety of a differential cyanosis in a reversal of the shunt, which will be there in a pre-subclavian variety of a patent ductus arteriosus. So this is a normal circulation which we already explained before. Now in case of a PDA, the blood from aorta is flowing through patent ductus into pulmonary circulation. So pulmonary circulation becomes increased, dilatation of pulmonary artery. Secondary to dilatation of pulmonary artery and increased blood flow, we already explained pulmonary congestion, repeated respiratory tract infection, all that oxygenated blood, increased blood will come to ALA. So ALA will undergo enlargement and hypertrophy. LV will also undergo enlargement of hypertrophy. So you will have a big ALA, big LV. All that blood is going into aorta. So there is even a dilatation of aorta. Major blood will be entering into pulmonary circulation. Less blood will be going into further systemic circulation. So we'll have a decreased blood flow in lower limb mainly rather than to subclavian, and further increase in pulmonary pressure. Now if the pulmonary pressure becomes equal to systemic pressure, you will lead to shunt will stop. Once the shunt stops, pulmonary murmur which was occurring at the PDA, that murmur will disappear. This is called as a Eisenmenger syndrome. Reversal of the shunt will give rise to differential cyanosis, congestive cardiac failure, right ventricular hypertrophy, right atrial hypertrophy, and right atrial pressure will be elevated. And there will be congestive cardiac failure and reversal of the shunt. Now this diagram will show you how exactly the blood is flowing in reversal of the shunt. So from pulmonary artery, if this deoxygenated blood starts flowing into aorta, it will be called deoxygenated blood going into aorta, reversal of the shunt. In a small size PDA, usually it is asymptomatic, but in moderate to severe variety, the person will have a increased pulmonary blood flow, repeated respiratory tract infection, pulmonary hypertension, when pulmonary pressure becomes equal to aortic pressure, Eisenmenger syndrome, then later on further elevation of pulmonary pressure, RV pressure is markedly elevated, RA pressure is elevated, congestive cardiac failure, and reversal of the shunt, differential cyanosis, chances of infective endocarditis, and also there will be increased chance of thrombus formation in a dilated left atrium, and you will have a paradoxical thromboembolism or infective endocarditis leading to paradoxical thromboembolization. That is, from left side it will go into right side, and during reversal of the shunt from right side it can go into systemic thromboembolism. So whatever we have explained, so small duct are usually asymptomatic. Moderate variety will start presenting in the form of a left heart failure, and in a severe variety you can have Eisenmenger syndrome with differential cyanosis, particularly in lower extremity and sometime in left upper arm if it is a pre-subclavian patent duct. By and large, as far as a murmur is concerned, you will have a continuous harsh murmur. We also describe as a machinery murmur, which will be heard in a left infraclavicular region, and radiated into the nearby area. This is because of the blood flow from aorta into patent duct via patent duct into pulmonary artery. And when the reversal of the shunt takes place, the blood will flow from pulmonary artery into aorta. But when the pressure is equal, the shunt stops, and you can have a bidirectional shunt, meaning the blood can flow from aorta into pulmonary artery depending upon the pressure gradients. So that will be what will be happening. So good examination in a child can make a diagnosis of which side the shunt is. It is left to right or reversal of the shunt after development of the pulmonary hypertension. On chest X-ray, you will have increased pulmonary vascular congestion, you might have what we call as LA and big LV, a big LA and big LV. On Doppler examination, echocardiography, you can make out the direction of the shunt, size of LA, size of LV, aortic pressures, pulmonary arterial pressures, whether there is a reversal of the shunt or not. In an ECG, you will get a big LA and big LV. As far as management part is concerned, usually in a small duct, you can go for a pharmacological closure by giving PDA inhibitors. In a moderate variety, if a person has developed congestive heart failure, treatment of congestive heart failure, or you can go for a catheter closure by a coil. Catheter is introduced and then you put in a coil. Chemical closures are almost now gone. Those days are gone. This is a description of a typical murmur. Murmur will be seen or audible in left infraclavicular region. It will be a continuous murmur. It is also described as machinery murmur or train in tunnel. It is a hollow systolic murmur. Almost in entire systolic period as well as the diastolic period. It is almost more than grade 4 to 6. The murmur will change during respiration. There will be no effect on respiration, Valsalva maneuver, or by any other change in a position. Murmur will be conducted into nearby area. It will be radiated into nearby area. You will have an increased flow murmur at the mitral area, which will produce a mid-diastolic murmur, which is a flow murmur. This is typical cyanosis you can see in upper limb and lower limb. We call differential cyanosis. Right upper limb is usually spared. Left upper limb and two lower limbs are mainly involved. Good number of times there is no cyanosis in two upper limb. You will have a cyanosis and clubbing in lower limb only. We already mentioned in an X-ray chest you will have a pulmonary congestion, a big LA and big LV, and then later on in a late stage you will have a RVH. ECG will show you big LA, big LV. Along with that you can have a RVH. Echocardiography will show you the site, size, pressure gradients, presence of infective endocarditis, thrombus, LA, LV, the direction of the blood flow, or even presence of thrombus in LA. And if you do an angiography, it will give you the exact site of PDA and also other abnormalities. On echo also you can pick up other abnormality like VSD or any change in pulmonary artery size, etc. So those investigations are very, very useful. This is coil which is being utilized to put into a patent ductus. It is a catheter position, catheter method. By and large now open method is rarely utilized. In an ECG we have already told you, you will have a big LA, big LV, and RV hypertrophy you will see once the person starts developing a pulmonary hypertension. So this will be typical X-ray chest showing you a big LA, double atrial shadow, LVH, pulmonary congestion, and even you might see one RVH. So cardiomegaly because of LVLA, dilated pulmonary artery. Ascending aorta part is increased, so we also use about dilated pulmonary artery as well as dilated aorta. And echocardiography will give you a lot of idea regarding the site, size, variety of patent ductus arteriosus, pressure gradients. You will also be able to know the size of patent ductus arteriosus. Other abnormalities also you can detect by ultrasonography, or we call it as echo. ECG will show you more of LA and LV, and once the right ventricle starts hypertrophy, you will have a signs of BVH. You will have to differentiate from ASD and VSD and other congenital anomalies. Small patent ductus arteriosus may not require treatment, but if it starts producing repeated respiratory tract infections, then either medical closure or transcatheter closure. By and large, open surgical closure days are gone. Infective endocarditis prophylaxis may be given. There is a role of COX-2 inhibitor for what we call as a medical closure. Percutaneous closure is the best method where you use a coil. This is a coil which is being utilized. Surgical ligation, clipping and then division is very rarely utilized, where you cannot do a medical closure or a transcatheter closure. By and large, small PDA usually closes within 1 year. Medium to large variety with heart failure will require a closure, where you will have to first treat the congestive heart failure and then go for a medical closure or coil, we call catheter closure. So coil is put here, it will automatically stop blood flow from pulmonary artery into, from aorta into pulmonary artery, and it will reduce the blood flow into pulmonary circulation. So you can put that coil, you can put this type of coil or you can put this type of coil. These are the different types of coils which are available. Surgical closures, I already told you, is very rarely utilized. By and large, you use a catheter closure. They are simple procedures and gives some very good results. You can see here, there is a blood flow from aorta into pulmonary circulation. And after putting a coil, you will see that coil is put. Now there is no longer a blood flow into pulmonary artery. So pulmonary artery will now not have any blood flow. So this is a post-coil closure. By and large, the open procedures are very rarely done. So you put a close, you will have to close the aortic and pulmonary end and then do a division. So you will have to close at two ends and then cut. Complication of patent ductus arteriosus, most common is repeated respiratory tract infection, Eisenmenger syndrome with reversal and with congestive cardiac failure, which will produce differential cyanosis and symptom signs of congestive cardiac failure. Chances of infective endocarditis is very high, and with reversal of the shunt you can have a paradoxical embolization from right side to left side, and before reversal from left atrium you can have a paradoxical embolization into systemic as well as to pulmonary via aorta to pulmonary artery. Along with this, the child is usually having retarded growth or stunted growth. These are the common complications. I end my lecture here. I hope this will be very helpful to you. See you in the next lecture. So we are finishing with acyanotic congenital heart disease.